what has also helped me throughout my career is just like not having my worth be tied into like my accolades anymore. Now my worth is tied into like being a good friend, daughter, sister, whatever. Soccer player is just an equal part, even though it's my job.
Episode number 2, season 2. We've got an awesome guest. Cari Roccaro is our guest today on the show. And Cari and I met when I worked for the North Carolina Courage. As I briefly mentioned in my intro of my past episode, worked for the Courage for about 4 weeks before I got laid off before the pandemic. And then a year into the pandemic, finally got a job back with them again. But Cari and I first met in 2020 when I started working with the team. And we talk a little bit about this, but I remember day one of meeting her, had been assigned to record a reunion of her and her best friend on the team, Ryan Williams, when they reunited at the airport. I was this creepy little employee in the back of their car, just with the camera, like, don't mind me. They didn't even know my name. They didn't know like why I was there. But still, they clearly didn't care. So that was my first impression of Cari. They're massive personalities, so fun, so funny. Cari has a really impressive career in soccer. She also played at Notre Dame, but prior to that, she won a World Cup with the U20 women's national team. She was drafted 5th overall, first to Houston in 2016, where she played for 2 years. And then she went on to play for the Courage, where she won 2 NWSL championships, a couple NWSL shields, and just had so much success on that team. And then in 2021, she was traded to Angel City, which was the brand new expansion team for the NWSL. But she was basically told, you're packing up your bags and you are going to this brand new team. They had never even played a game before. It was a really exciting club, but obviously her heart had always been with the Courage for so many years. So we talk all about what that transition was like. But most importantly, Cari has had an incredible journey with her mental health, and she's been so open about that. She has her own podcast called Butterfly Road, and she really opens up about her struggles with mental health and how she's really trying to destigmatize the conversation around it. So I will let her tell her story because I really like to blab on in these little intros and tell their story for them. But it's good to have some context. But anyway, let's get into our conversation with Cari Roccaro. Hello.
Great.
Hello.
Oh, yay. Oh,
Hi.
A wet rag. Hey.
I was trying to remember first of like the first day that we ever met, which was when I first started at the Courage, day 1. And my assignment was to like sit in the back of the car and like film you greeting Ryan at the airport.
Yeah, I was like, wait, when did we meet? I was thinking on the field, but yeah, oh my gosh, it was like March 1st or something, 2020. This was right before COVID.
Yep.
I will never forget. I was like, just got back from the Bahamas. I had a little sniffle. I think I had COVID at the time. I was
We're
like,
all in the car together.
Yeah, I was like, I have a little sniffle picking up Ryan, and you were probably like, oh my God, like, what am I getting into here?
You guys were just
like it was fun.
So full of energy, so entertaining. I was like, who are these people? It was amazing. But like my assignment was just to sit in the back of the car and like record you guys. And it was so creepy. I'm like, hey, like I'm Megan, but ignore me, like be cool. But also you're probably like, who is this stranger in the back of the car? But it was a good first mem. I was like, damn.
And it was a good couple weeks before you disappeared.
I'm literally off the face of the earth. It's like, thanks for working for us for 3.5 weeks.
Yeah, see you later.
But anyway, we have Cari Roccaro on the podcast. We'll get into all of the ups and downs of your journey. But another big reason I'm excited to have Cari on is because you have your own podcast all about mental health and sports. And I feel like this is something that you and I have talked a lot about. And then you literally have your own platform talking about it. And I think that I want to say that you were my inspiration to like start a podcast after I lost my job.
Really?
I think so. It would have timed out that way because I was like, I have no job. I need something to do. And I was like, oh, Cari has her own podcast. When did you guys start it actually?
2020. But are you sure? Because you might have started earlier than me. Were you doing it during COVID?
Yeah, okay. I'm just gonna give you that inspo. That book.
You actually started before me, but I will tell you, you know what you inspired me to do was to get a damn air fryer and put some Oreos in it. I felt like every week you were like, hey, I'm air frying whatever, and like make these Instagram reels.
That
And I
was
was
my
like, oh,
that was my
yeah,
whole life though. I mean, I was like,
air fryer.
I need to talk about some substance other than dipping Oreos in pancake batter and frying it.
I loved it. I secretly was like, oh, I'm gonna like try that recipe next week. Right? What are you making now? I'm like, I don't know. I saw it on Instagram.
Well, I'm glad I inspired something, but we'll pretend like you also inspired me with this podcast. But we'll get into obviously how you started it all. But I do want to go just back to, talking about the roller coaster of a career that you've had so far. And I know you've been very open about mental health and sports. And then I think I read an article recently that you had talked about the moment that you had been cut from Houston. I think it was from women kickballs.
Oh, I must have recently did it this year.
Yes. Yeah. And so I'm curious just how that moment might have, I don't know, started. I don't know if that's when your mental health journey kind of came to the surface of like the volatility of being a professional athlete. And you even mentioned like almost quitting. So take me back to that moment of when you found out you got cut after, playing 2 years professionally.
It was kind of that off season leading into it. Actually, both off seasons with the dash specifically. I remember every time there was a new signing in the off season, I would get really anxious. Like my first thought was, oh, I'm not good enough. They feel like they have to bring in so and so. And so that
Mm,
already give me anxiety, already put extra pressure on me. And then I'd be training, feeling like I have to do everything to be the best I can be. I was not really establishing myself in the league. I was coming back from a hip injury. I was like not doing very well, like at all.
mm,
And so I put all this pressure on myself to the point where I would be out there just like flipping out on the field, like throwing my cleats in the trash because I was just so frustrated. And I was like, I can't do this. Like it was crazy. And then after all that, I ended up getting cut. And I was like, you put in all this work, all this pressure on you to then get cut. Like I had pros and cons list on my computer of like,
mm.
why am I playing? I
Wow.
didn't feel like I loved it as much. And I feel like I was playing because I had nothing else to do and I loved my friends. And I was like, oh God. So I was basically just like, I don't know if I want to do this. Maybe
Yeah.
it's time to move on, like blah, blah, blah. And I mean, I was really close. Like I was about to quit. And I ended up getting I signed with the Courage. And so I got on a plane, went to North Carolina, signed a couple days later, ended up winning back-to-back championships. But it was there where I had to figure out how to really love soccer again because I wasn't the
Mm,
star of the team. I wasn't getting playing time. I literally played in 2 games and all I did was run fitness and like be that total team player pushing our starters. And so for me, I was like, why are you here now? You just
yeah.
had all this miserable time. You got cut. You really didn't feel like playing. You came back. But I think it was in that moment where I felt like I could really give more if I put in the work. I could like turn my career around and if I focused. And so I got a lot better. I got a lot fitter. I got a lot sharper. And then from there, I just think I found a new love for it because I learned how to be a team player and feel like I was a part of something bigger than just like my individual
Yeah.
accolades. I think for so long, like my worth was tied into like being the fifth pick and like winning the U20
Mm,
World Cup and like being the captain of the U23 national team, like all being an All-American at Notre Dame, like all these individual
yeah.
accolades. And then I had to find my worth elsewhere. And I started to find my worth in being a really good teammate and just like things that had nothing to do with results or
Mm,
success on the field. And then rolling into the following season in 2019, where we also won a championship, I changed my mindset because that offseason was kind of scary too. Cause I was like, well, now you got to build on it. Now you got to come in better than you were before. And I was like, okay,
yeah.
eliminate the pressure. Why don't you just focus on enjoying yourself and getting better? And that
Mm,
was just like such a growth mindset, process driven thing for me where I was just like, okay, if I literally just focus on giggling and getting better, every time I mess up or I get yelled at this training or I feel like I'm about to pass out, I know I'm improving and then I'm gonna have fun no matter what. And it
yeah.
was so crazy because you've been in the environment with the Courage where everyone's like running and doing all this fitness, and trainings are super intense, and people would get so anxious before training.
I
Everyone,
bet.
veterans to rookies, you name it, people would be like, oh my God, we're running this, or oh my God, I heard we're running this. And I literally be like, who cares? And everyone was like, why are you,
So
what
chill.
happened? Yeah, like exactly. Why are you so chill? I go, because one, this isn't gonna kill me, and two, I know it's just gonna make me better. And like we're all working together. And it's just
Yeah.
like I totally flipped my mindset where I was like, I don't give a shit about how I do, as long as I do my best and I enjoy myself. I go home, I hang out with Ryan, we watch The Bachelorette, and we just cook dinner and have a great time. And then from there, I ended up playing. That was my, besides this past year with Angel City, that was my best year.
Really.
Yeah. And so I was like, I had a damn good year considering how much I like on paper didn't really care. Did
When
like
you
totally, I mean, I cared, but I just cared. And I've talked about this before on other podcasts. I just cared about the right things, which was
mm,
like growth and happiness
yeah.
versus like winning and making sure I get the most playing time and making sure everyone thinks I'm the best. It was like, no, I found my worth off the field and all of these other things. And then on the field, I just focused on improvement, and it was the best thing to happen to me.
Isn't that so crazy how when you think that you're focusing on and the moment you think it's the right things, like how can I be better, faster, stronger, and you're putting so much pressure on yourself with that that you end up playing worse versus
Mm-hmm.
the moments where you like let those things go. And that's such a scary thing to probably do, is to let go of that control of the thoughts of like I need to be focused on every minute of what's making me better. Actually, like you're saying, letting go of those thoughts ultimately made you play better, which seems like a scary thing to do,
Yeah.
and it's like losing the control that you're so used to having, because you think maybe in the past that's like what helped you get all that success, maybe the individual success, because you
Yeah.
felt like you did so much individual mental focus. But then maybe was it that change like going to pro, or were some of these things happening internally throughout college as well,
I
like
think
mentally?
the level was different in college. And so when I got to the pros, it was the best players in the world. So I think it was just
Mm,
a step up. But I think also in college, like you're lifting, and you know this, you're in the gym or lifting, and you have people like timing your times, or measuring things for you. When you're measuring things on your own and pushing yourself and having this like intrinsic motivation, you start to become, well, at least I did. I started to become a little bit of a lunatic where I was so like meticulous about like, oh, last week you benched 115 pounds, you have to go higher.
yeah.
Versus in college, I wasn't really aware of those types of things. I
Oh
was
yeah.
like, oh, do whatever. And so I was like, if I don't see improvement, or if I don't make 5 shots with my right foot and 5 shots with my left foot, it's like, who cares if you make 5 and 5? But for me, that's the only way I was able to measure my improvement by myself, training. And so I had
Mm,
to now, like even in my off seasons now, which I struggle with every single day, is to just let go and be like, you don't need to make 5 and 5. Why don't, and I used to say like make 5 in a row with both
mm,
feet. And like I'd be there getting so pissed at myself. It's like I backed off on that, where I don't use like measurements for success. I just use
mm,
time, I guess, where I'm like, okay, be out there for 30, like start your watch for 30, do shooting for 30, try to get 2 good goals with your right, 2 good goals with your left. And
mm.
this is actually really funny. I, when I'm doing shooting or like little technical work on the field now, instead of being super hard on myself where I'm like measuring my success in those other like very toxic ways, I put on the Harry Styles Fine Line album from start to finish, not on shuffle. So it just like runs through the same, like every single time. And once
Uh-huh.
I get to the last song, I'm like, all right, time to wrap it up. Like Fine Line's playing. And then once the album, it's like 42 minutes. So that's like the most I allow myself to be out there. So when Fine
Wow.
Line wraps up, I'm like, all right, you gotta go. And it's really embarrassing actually, because there's been like friends that have come to the field, they're like, hey, what's up? And usually you'd be jamming like Eminem or whatever. And I'm
Yeah, yeah.
like watermelon sugar. And I'm like,
You're like, it's gets me in the zone.
that's like how I train now, like to watermelon
Interesting.
sugar versus like I used to make 5 shots and do whatever and be crazy. And my career is lasting long and I'm doing a lot better mentally.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. I mean, that's a great tip, to each their own. It gets me hyped for sure. That's really interesting though. I feel like it sounds like, yeah, very rigid. And this keeps coming to my brain, and I don't know if I'll keep this in because this is very personal, but something I'm going through right now is post playing career, my like diet and what I'm eating. And I've been very like controlling with tracking my food and calories and counting that and using an app. And I've done that for like 12 years. And post playing, I still did it and I was like very rigid with it. But then also I wasn't, because then I would hit my calories for the day and be like, I'm still hungry. So fuck the app. I'm not going to pay attention. But recently, like I'm very recently, like 2 weeks ago, I was like, let me just try to delete the app and see how to eat food based on how I feel, which I've never done before. I've
How you
never like
feel?
listened to my body, listened to hunger fullness cues, like have never done that. Never really talked about this before, but I'm not kidding. Like I have felt so much better, especially like around food. I feel like so much more in control just because I'm not constantly thinking about this number in my head and this control that I have over it and that it had over me. And I think that I genuinely feel like better in my body and my clothes because I'm not like doing this tracking thing and this control that thought I had.
Mhm.
But that's like everything you're
I
talking about kind of
totally.
reminds me of that.
Yeah, and it's just nice to like let go where you still care. It's not like you're eating donuts every day.
Right.
It's like I'm not gonna mentally beat myself up over
Mm,
something that's kind of just so ridiculous to achieve consistently.
yeah.
And
Yes.
I feel like you should keep this in because the amount of people that would be able to relate to this, especially I think of female athletes that I play with
Hmm.
that are just kind of private about this stuff. And I struggle with it
Yeah.
too. Like we all want to look good, but we also want to feel our bodies, but we also want to
Right.
enjoy like tacos. So
Yeah.
it's like the hardest balance of all time of like, how do you do it? And I think it's just like the pressures of being a female and being a female
Hmm.
athlete and social media and all of it, where it's like, it's really, really tough to manage. And
Yeah.
it's nice to know that people aren't alone. But I think it's like really inspiring that you're just like, you know what, I'm gonna let go and I feel a lot better. Because I'm like
Yeah.
that too with food. It's like sometimes I'm just like, oh gosh, you need to only eat spinach.
Hmm.
But it's like, no, you need a fuel. Like if you're hungry, eat.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
It,
you have to, or you're gonna deteriorate.
right. Or I just like would never let myself get hungry because I was eating on a schedule. I was just eating because I knew I'd practice in 2 hours, so I knew I had to eat now, and then I knew I had a game, so I need to eat right after. I didn't play that much, so maybe I didn't need to eat as much. I I just ate based on a schedule. So I never truly listened to like, oh, am I hungry? Now I should eat. Or maybe I'm not hungry, even though I have this free food in front of me. I don't have to eat it. And that's
Mm-hmm.
something recently I've been able to do is like, I'm so used to there being free food. I'm like, hell yeah, like go to town because it's in front of me. But now I'm like, oh wait, I'm like not hungry and it's not gonna make me feel good if I eat this.
Right.
But the transition to like relationship with food post playing career has been so fucking hard. Like I don't know, what am I, 5 years out of playing and I'm still like trying to figure it out. So
I'm sure I will struggle with it too. Even in the off season where I'm like, oh, I'm not training for a little bit, but then I'm eating and drinking like, you
mhm,
know, crazy person. And I'm like, it really like affects how I feel and look, and then how I feel about how I look, and
mhm,
it makes, and then I'm like getting back on my little bit of grind. And like, I'm gonna have to consistently, unfortunately, fuel my body with those things because I feel like that's what makes me feel the best as an athlete, but also as a human being.
yeah,
So it's just gonna have to be something I kind of keep up with
yeah.
post playing, unfortunately, especially for people like us. We're too active to be just like donut eaters all the time.
Oh, I
And
know. And
feel better when you have a healthy gut and you're feeling yourself with. I think diet has changed my life and is so I want to do a podcast episode about this. My friend's an integrative health practitioner. I wanted to come on and talk about how diet affects the gut and mental health because it's like actually such a real thing.
yeah, didn't think we were gonna go down that track, but I thought that
No, I'm glad you brought it up. I feel like that is important for people
I
to.
think it, and it's like all tied too because it's that transition. And what I have been focusing on in this podcast is a lot about like transitioning out of career, but like you're deep in it right now. Like you are literally hitting your stride. I feel like,
I would say I'm at my tail end though. I do say that out loud. Like I'm
okay,
28. I'm gonna be 29. So like I feel like am I in my prime? Most likely because I'm fit as hell and I think I had a pretty good year.
yeah.
However, I'm getting older. Like the age is not on my side necessarily.
How long
So
do you want to play for?
I don't know. And it does make me anxious. And I do think about like what's next. And I try to just make sure I put my feelers out and stay connected to the world. And I'm passionate about like mental health and like impacting others and stuff like that. But yeah, it terrifies me. I'm gonna lose my identity and I might throw up for a long time every day.
Yeah.
But
But I think it's good. Like I have been binging a bunch of your episodes, and it's clear that you are so far ahead than I think probably a lot of athletes where it's like those stages of grief where like you've already kind of thought about that this is not just a possibility, it's a reality. Like it's
mhm.
gonna.
A little, oh, sorry. My lips are dry. Oh, yeah, I'm
I just
into
thought about
that.
your photo of like, do you collect them
Oh,
when you?
I don't throw them out until they are empty.
This is
Empty.
Carmax. What's it called? Lip stuff, by the way, if anyone's listening.
Yeah.
It. You have like an. Are you? Would you call it an addiction?
Oh, absolutely. Because there's like shards of glass in here.
What? How did you
That's
get
what
short?
I read about this. People say there's like they make this like addictive. Yeah.
How is shards of glass an addictive thing?
Like, because then my lips get super dry. So I'm like, oh, I need more. And then my lips are like dry again. And I'm like, oh, I need more.
I heard Burt's Bees does that too. Not to like all
These,
the sponsors I'm about to get, I'm just shutting down, you know?
yeah, Birds Bees is listening and they're like, actually, never mind.
Like this girl, we thought we wanted her.
Oh,
um,
we can't.
what was I even talking about? What was I even
What the
saying?
hell were we just talking about?
Something
Post playing
about
career, me. Oh, how I'm way ahead of people because I do
yeah.
something.
And like
What
you're saying, did you say how long you wanted to play or you don't know?
Oh, I don't. Yeah, I don't
It
know.
just depends. But I mean, would your answer have been different if you were still with the courage? Like, did you see your career ending more there, or did like all of a sudden this new life with Angel City sort of reinvigorate,
Well,
energize yourself?
so I will say, I always had a feeling I would end up somewhere else before
Mm,
retire. I knew I wasn't going to retire from football in North Carolina.
mm,
However, I loved that place very dearly. Like it
I
was
know, I
home.
could
And
tell.
leaving was so hard. And then when I came back, oh my God, it was like so emotional. Like when
Really.
I go back there, I'm like, oh my gosh, I like miss it a ton. With that being said, Angel City did kind of reignite this like, oh, here's a bunch of new challenges for you. Like you had
Mm,
your own set of challenges with the courage, but like I have a totally different set of challenges. Like I have a different role with Angel City, but like so I'm more of a leader, I'm more of a veteran.
mm,
I started most of the games, actually, I think all but like one I was coming back from COVID. And
wow.
so for me, it was like that's a totally different role than I'm used to. But then there's other challenges that you deal with, like an expansion team. People don't know each other, like just like field availability, like locker room troubles, like just random expansion team stuff that you deal
Yeah.
with. So like it was just really good for my growth in a different way. And it just makes me hungry for more. I'm not satisfied. I'm not done yet. However, if I had to hang up my boots tomorrow, I would be so incredibly proud of myself. So I'm kind of both.
Wow.
Like I could be ready tomorrow to be like, I'm out, but I have so
Wow.
much fun and I love it so much still that I'm like, oh God, you are actually like not ready because you're still good
Mm.
and you really enjoy it. So I can go
That's
either.
key. And
Yeah.
I think, yeah, as long as you can confidently say that you still enjoy it, and you don't have to enjoy it every single day. Like I know there's going to be days where you're like, I hate this. But if your overall sentiment is still like, I love the game, I'm feeling good, why not keep going if you have that opportunity? Before we go on, I want to talk more about what it was like on a more fun note, playing for, or at least being part of a team that was brand new to a league. Like Angel City, there was so much hype around it. Like, what's been the coolest part? Everyone's looking at it like there's celebrities everywhere. Like, is it really like that? Like, give us an inside peek at.
Yeah, it's really like that. Like
Yeah.
one of the games, Dwayne Wade just like walked by.
You're
Out
like,
of the
hey,
just like Gabrielle Union, Jennifer Garner, Glennon Doyle, Abby Wambach, like they're regulars at the game. This isn't
wow.
like where our founder is Natalie Portman, Alexis Ohanian, so Olympia. Like
Hmm.
I've yet to meet Serena, but like these people are around all the time, all the
That's
time.
crazy.
And then like during the games, they'll just like pan it to like Victoria Justice or whoever is there that day.
That's
I'm just like,
awesome.
I walked by, I was warming up for a game, and Becca Tilley from The Bachelor was just like sitting there, and now she's my
Oh yeah, I
friend.
saw you guys took a picture
I was like,
together.
oh my God. I'm like, I'm such a fan. I was like actually fangirling. But then you have like USA volleyball coming. Like there's just a ton
That's
of fans.
so cool. Your
Yeah.
club clearly does like a really good job of, I don't know if it's networking or just like
Yeah, I don't know what
awareness.
they did. It's absolutely incredible. I mean, you saw the home opener, you were there, but we had a lot of repeat games like that where we were
That's
just
crazy.
selling out the crowd. And I mean, let's call it what it was. Like it wasn't like Angel City was at the top of the table the whole year. We didn't get results at home most of the time or a lot of the time. Sometimes we did, but a lot of times we would tie or lose.
Yeah.
And people were just coming back to support us. it was, I mean, it's to me, if it's the standard in the league now.
Yeah.
It
So
was the
what do
best.
you think I mean, was it just like an LA thing, or what do you think it was that's really drawing so much excitement to the women's game in LA?
I think it's an LA thing for sure. I don't think it hurts that LAFC is awesome. Shout out, they just won.
Yep, yep.
I think the marketing has been incredible, like a lot of community outreach and like getting the word out. I don't think it hurt that we won that first game and it was really exciting.
My God, that game.
I think if
Oh,
we
it was
had
tragic.
lost 5-0, I think people would have been like, oh, kind of a bummer. But like we put on a show. The whole
Yeah.
us courage, like it was a show.
That
It
was
was
so
definitely people got their money's worth.
for context, that was yeah, your home opener. You guys hadn't played there yet. And you
Mhm.
were playing, and I was there because at the time I was working for the Courage. And so that's your previous team. And you guys literally pulled out the fucking pink red carpet. It was
It
a
was like the Super Bowl.
it
Yeah.
was literally a Super Bowl. It was a
Yeah.
spectacle. It was the coolest thing to see. I think even the Courage players, we were talking about this, like,
They were like,
regardless
what?
of the result, what a cool thing for the game of women's soccer. Just the
Mhm.
excitement around it, the support. And like you said, like that should be the standard now. Like that should be, it is what it is. Yes, there's money behind it, but that's the way it should be. And it was so awesome to see. I'm sure you had so many emotions going through your head of,
I will tell you. I walked out to see if anyone was on the field when I got there, and I saw Sean and I gave him a hug. I was shaking. I then
really?
walked out for warm-ups. I looked over at the team warming up and I just saw the crowd wasn't even full yet. And I was just like, I looked at Freya and I was like, I am nervous. Like I literally was like, oh my gosh. And I don't really get nervous for games because I don't really
Mm.
care. And I was just like, I'm nervous.
What
And
were you
then
most nervous about? What was the,
I didn't know how the game was gonna go like against the old squad, and I just knew
mm,
there was a lot of friends and family of mine either watching or there, and I just
yeah,
kind of I feel like there was just a lot of like build up to this moment, and the courage was
yeah,
hot. We were going to the Challenge Cup final, and we had only won one game. We squeaked out a win in the Challenge Cup, one game at the end, and so
yeah,
we were underperforming, and so I was like, this is gonna just be it's personal for me because that's my old team, but
right.
at the same time, I told Brian this. It was the weirdest thing for me because having her and my other teammates there, but like she's so dear to me and having her be there for a moment like that in my life and kind of share
Yeah.
that with me was like really, really cool. All of them to like kind of be there and not that they were like rooting for me because they wanted to win, but they got to share in something that was really like pivotal in my career. So it was just like
Yeah.
really nice that we kind of had that shared experience, even though like
Oh.
after the game she was like, we lost. I'm like, well, I'm on cloud 9. Sorry, I gotta go. But yeah, it was for me, it was so bittersweet after the game. I think I saw you. I mean, I was
Mm.
crying. I was so
Yeah.
overwhelmed with emotion. I just was like, I can't believe like it basically solidified that I wasn't on loan. Like I in my head, I was just like,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm on loan. Like this whole time I felt like I was like going back to the courage. And for me, after that game, I was like, oh, I'm not going back. And so
Mm.
like I was very, very emotional, but love that
Wow.
we spanked them. I mean, they re-spanked us later on in the year, but spanking them at home like that
Yeah.
was I think that's
We,
the standard for the year.
I think we felt like I certainly felt it. Like I got to be like right behind, I think your attacking goal at the first or wherever your the biggest fan section is. I think
Mhm.
that's where I was like filming from. And from kickoff, I think you guys scored like really
Two
early
minutes
too.
in, two
Yeah,
minutes. I
two
was like,
minutes in.
oh my gosh.
And the crowd went nuts and I got chills. I was like, of course, I'm like,
Mhm.
fuck, we're losing. But also I was like, this is so beautiful. Like, I did get emotional. I'm like, this is so beautiful. Like I've never seen a crowd, especially in America, for women's soccer like that for
Yeah,
a not USA game, but it was so cool.
that was
So
top two coolest. I won a World Cup in 2012.
yeah,
So that
put that
to
in there.
me, obviously, but this is easily number two, creeping up to number one as like the coolest moment in my soccer career.
Yeah.
It
Oh,
was, yeah,
I get chills thinking
unbelievable. I
about it.
like am so thankful I got to be a part of something like that. Like no matter what happened with Angel City, we were all so proud, even though we fell short of playoffs, as you saw, you were here. But I mean, we made history, and I get to say that forever. Like I am leaving this game saying like I was a pioneer in the NWSL and I made history for this team. And I will say I made history in North Carolina too.
Yeah.
We did things there that people aren't going to be able to ever, ever repeat,
Yeah.
ever, which
Yeah.
is unbelievable. So I'm
And
like,
that's good that you and write that. I'm sure you've already written all this shit down, but like those are the things you can think about when the career wraps up and
yeah,
have the
I
things.
actually haven't written them down. I just kind of keep it in my brain. Sometimes you forget to like stop and smell the roses about all the
Mhm.
things you've done in your career. I guess when it is over, you're kind of like, oh gosh, it's over. But then when you look back at all the amazing things you've done and like the people you've impacted and the relationships you've built, it's like, oh wow, this was really great. Has
Yeah.
to end at some point, like you said.
And
But
I feel like I look back on my career and I definitely did not live in the moment enough. Like I definitely was always wishing for this game to be over, wishing for this training to be over. And now I play adult league pickup and I'm like, God, this is so fun. I think it's a mix of there being no pressure and I'm just playing for fun. And I'm playing like the best I've ever played. I'm like, why could I have not played like this in college?
up here,
Yeah.
it's a carefree mentality.
Yeah.
And that's also why I like the off season too, is because I am kind of able to just like make mistakes and not feel like my playing time is on the line or like our results are on the line. Where I'm just like,
Mm.
try it. What's the worst thing that happens? You miss hit the ball, it goes, you take a bad touch. I'm just like, it's fine.
Your podcast is just like so on point to everything I always think about. And there's been so many ones where I like am listening. I'm like, damn, these are literally thoughts that I've had for so long. And I'm curious so I was trying to think of which direction I even want to go in at this point. I feel like I have so many things I want to talk about, but since we're talking about your podcast, what it's like to like the dynamic between you and Jenny. So give the background, like how did it get all started?
Okay. Jenny is my dear friend from Notre Dame. She played soccer with me there. She's 2 years younger. We got closer after college, I think. I started to go back and visit a lot and train, and we started to both open up about our mental health a little bit more and always have conversations about how we were feeling. And our friendship grew over time as I started playing the league. She was very invested in soccer. She loves the NWSL, loves Champions League. She's always watching sports. So I think she started supporting me more. And then we just continued to build on our relationship, talk about our respective mental illnesses. And then one day during COVID, she was like, I think we should start a podcast about mental health. I thought she was joking, and I was like, all right, what do we do? And then she was like, just why don't we talk about the stuff we talk about all the time
Yeah.
and just record it and put it up? And I was like, okay, what's your goal here? And she's like, to just impact one person. And I was like, okay. And so, yeah, me too. And so then within 3 weeks, we were like up on Spotify. We like
Yeah.
went to Target, got our little mics, and that was it. And I was like, oh gosh, it turned into this like really awesome therapeutic thing for both of us. And I will
Yeah.
tell you, often I don't practice what I preach. Not often, but enough where I have to go back and listen to my own episodes where
Mm.
there's a specific few that I really find myself going back. One of them is called hitting the reset button.
Mm.
I go back and listen to that a lot.
Really?
I
Why?
listen to my own because I think I just struggle with like, and this is what we are kind of talking about earlier, like when I'm in training mode and I'm kind of trying to do everything I can to be successful, I do struggle with like letting go of that control sometimes and like giving myself a rest. And I think I talk about it in that episode where I'm like, part of being like a high level athlete or just like a successful human being is knowing what it might be harder, but knowing when to like take your foot off the gas and like
Yeah.
give yourself the time to just like chill out and have the balance, because that is probably harder to do for people like us. And I struggle with it. And so when I listen to that, I'm like, oh yeah, like you said it there, like don't go down this little rabbit hole of getting back into the wrong way.
Yeah. It's almost like easier for us because our brain is so programmed to just be go, 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 have a structured training program or practice schedule. And we've just been so conditioned to that. And then again, like I feel like we're looking at it on both sides. You're still in your career. I'm post college, didn't get as far, but I now see it applied in my like adult life career. And I'm curious if Jenny talks about this too. I know she does a little bit on the podcast because now she is just a regular old person like us, but I feel the constant need to be like busy and productive. Like if I have some free downtime, like
You
I
like
need
won't
to
let yourself have free time.
no, and like
That's me
binging
often.
binging like 2 episodes of a reality TV show is like, oh, that's
Yeah,
too
must
much.
go do something now.
Must
Yeah.
read a book, listen to a podcast, go on a walk, do something. Like, I'm literally talking about this in therapy right now. And my
Mhm.
therapist is like, how about you think of it like that is a productive thing for you to do, is actually doing that downtime, because
Nothing. Yeah.
then you're sort of re-energized to do the things when you do need to get something done. I feel like I said do
Yeah.
a million
Yeah.
times, but I cannot chill. Like, I literally have no
Yeah,
chill.
I'm the same way. But I will say, I think like if binging Netflix for 2 episodes, if that's like filling up your cup in another way, that's really valuable too. And we forget that. Like my
Yeah.
therapist was like, oh, like what do you like to do? What are your hobbies? And I was like, I like to watch Netflix. And I think she kind of looked at me like, that's your hobby? And I was like, it recharges me. It allows me to like sit down in a world where all I know how to do is not sit down because I'm so type A, go, go, go. So I'm like, actually, it does something to me that's really fulfilling and helpful. And I think that's why I call it a hobby, because like sometimes you actually do need to sit there and like do nothing.
Zone
But
out.
even here, like I'll be like, oh my God, I'm such a couch potato. I'm so sorry. I did nothing all day. I feel guilty.
I was just about to say it's the guilt.
Yeah, I'm just like, I should be doing more. And James is like, yo, relax. Like you
Yeah.
just had a whole season. You earned this time, hang out. And I'm just like, well, I must have structure. I like make little to-do lists, random stuff to do. Like I can't even think of, it's like the stupidest stuff, like take out the trash when it doesn't need to be taken out, or like go on Amazon and search for whatever when like I don't need to buy that thing.
No, I'm like, I need to
I feel like I'm doing things.
Yep. I have like a to-do list on my phone, and one like a sticky note on my wall, and then one in the kitchen. And it's like, buy new wallpaper. And it's like,
That was me the other day. I walked towards, probably you're familiar with like Larrabee, like near
yes,
Target. I walked
yo,
to that Larrabee Target and got bath towels, face towels. We do not need face towels here. I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna
feels
go get
right.
face towels. Like there's nothing else for me to do. So I'm gonna make that like a have to must do today is get the face towels. It was so ridiculous. And I
Uh,
walked damn far.
it, and then you're in your brain, you're like, oh, I did something productive because I went
Mhm.
on a walk, I moved my body, I
And
bought
I got my
something new.
top. Yeah, I
Yes.
actually felt like it like helped, which
Yeah.
is sad. I don't know if you have any advice on how to just like, or is it necessary for people like us?
So I'm about to get deep here, but I've noticed that this is what I'm doing, because sitting still, it makes me in my thoughts.
Ryan said that to me the other day.
Yeah. If I
I
sit
told him.
still, that means I have to listen to my thoughts. And I
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not out here being dramatic, like I have these like dark thoughts, but
Oh, but you start to overthink,
oh
spiral. Mm-hmm.
spiraling and the ruminating thoughts, and my
Mm-hmm.
brain just like goes on a fucking roller coaster of whatever is my focus at that point in my life or my month or whatever. But that's why I'm constantly like making plans. Like all my friends, like, oh my God, you're so
It
social, like
distracts you, right? I guess you're distracted when you aren't sitting down.
distracting myself
Okay, so what do we
100%.
do? Because she called me out. She goes, maybe it's because you were just sitting there waiting around that you started overthinking and feeling anxious and whatever. And I was like, yeah, I kind of was just sitting around all day. So I guess
Hmm.
there maybe is a balance between like sitting and feeling like you're waiting for something versus like sitting and I don't know, sitting and purposely doing nothing and giving yourself that permission.
Yeah. I mean, I
And
know
like,
for
how do you stop your thoughts from?
me, I'm big into journaling, and I do it, but I only really do it like right before I go to bed. But that's when, okay, this all makes sense now, because when I go to bed is finally the moment of the day where I am laying down, not on my phone, not like reading anything. And that's the only moment of the day where I'm like quiet. And then that's when the thoughts come in.
Mhm.
And so it's been really helpful for me to just literally word vomit in my journal. You can't, if you were to go back and read it, like, I don't care, I'll hand this to anyone because it looks like chicken scratch. Like, you can't even see what it says, but it helps me just to get whatever has been like ruminating up here all day long, to just get it out on paper. And I have noticed that I don't lay in bed and just like spiral think.
Mhm.
So
I'm a huge proponent of journal. I tell everyone to do it. I don't understand. It's so therapeutic for me. And I'm also like, you and your journal, that's the one person that like you can't lie to. You can really just like open up and like say it how it is.
yeah.
It's just like really nice to write to, I say someone. I have the notebook right here. I don't know why I brought this here because I'm not journaling during this, but
Take notes.
Just like be able to write something out to only yourself and know that it's like safe in there and you can like truly be honest and just like let it go. I literally wrote a note to the moon today because of the full moon. There's like some
It
eclipse
is nice.
with some shit going on. So it was like James told me to do it this morning. He was like reading some note. He's like, my energy coach sent this to write a note to the moon. So I wrote like, dear moon, I am letting go of whatever, like fears of this and anxiousness with that. Like, I don't know if it worked, but it was nice to just like get it out on paper.
That's kind of cool too. I haven't thought about that, like writing to, I'm not gonna call it an inanimate object, but like not a person. I'm gonna
I
write to
really
like
wrote a
my
letter to the
refrigerator.
moon only because it's a full moon.
Okay, yeah, true,
I'll write
fair.
a letter to the moon every day.
But it makes sense because I'm gonna make it make sense. It makes sense because you have like a destination for your message, and it's not just you because I don't know, I'll bullshit with myself. Like there's so many points in my journal where like I try to sound like I have my thoughts together and I'll literally write like Megan, that is such bullshit, and then like actually say what I mean and what I'm thinking. And then I feel like with the moon, moon's not judging you. I guess like I'm still judging myself. I think it's this idea of it being like an object that's not going to judge you. And if it's the moon for you, it's the moon.
Yeah, it was the moon today. Yeah, I was pretty open with the moon. And I'm probably gonna take that piece of paper and like burn it now because I don't want anyone to see what I wrote. But it's so therapeutic. And I will say, when you do those things and you realize they help, you have to continue doing them.
Mm,
If you aren't consistent with it, I was telling one of the girls I mentor, I was like, okay, like let's say you're working on your left foot and you're doing a lot of shooting for a really long time and you get pretty good at it and then you stop working on your left foot for a month, it's gonna start to get rusty and suck. So
yeah.
you have to keep going. Like if these things are working, you gotta keep doing them.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have slip ups, life gets in the way with like all of my mental strategies. But that
Yeah.
one for me is it's huge. It's really helpful. I feel like you're like me, you need hands-on. I like to bake or cook or
Mm-hmm.
write or paint or
Because I don't know if you were gonna bring this up, but like the meditation piece, I try to meditate, like guided
uh,
meditations on an app, and I just end up not listening to a word that they're saying and just sitting and thinking about my thoughts. But I do turn on a meditation like when I'm going to sleep. But now I'm starting to think that that's still me avoiding my thoughts. Is like this is kind of creepy, but there's like a voice in my room. So I have a meditation playing like once I'm done journaling, and then it's time for me to like shut my eyes, turn off my phone, or just not be on my phone. And I play a meditation where it's like it's a sleep meditation. It's to help you
right.
fall asleep. But I almost feel like
You're
that's
listening to someone else or doing something else.
I'm yet again avoiding a opportunity for me to have my thoughts be in my head.
But what about when you're journaling though? You are coming to terms with your thoughts. It's
Yes.
not like you're completely avoiding them. You're just compartmentalizing so you can kind of enjoy your day and then
Oh,
you let them out when it's time, which is kind of like a healthy way to, so you're not like anxious all day. I
I
don't think this
am
is the worst thing.
I'm dangerously good at compartmentalizing where my parents have called me like an ice princess where I will go through something in life that I should react to and I like don't. And but then I feel like I bury it down and I'm like, oh, compartmentalizing it so I can focus on
Yeah,
my
and then
job.
it'll probably hit you when it's time to confront your feelings.
But it hits me, yeah, it hits me way later on. I love how this has turned into a therapy session for me.
This is how Butterfly Road always goes. This is why we do what we do. It's just
You just
these,
talk.
I told you this, these conversations, they just get so authentic and like
Yeah.
you don't pre-plan them. And this is like what people listening will be like, oh, I can relate to that. Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
go through it every single day.
Yeah. Unlike
Oh,
playing in front of a crowd of 50,000 people.
besides that,
Besides that, and winning a World Cup. Well, the biggest thing that I feel like we can sort of wrap up on, and this has been, again, a work in progress for me. I'm sure a lot of post athletes and current athletes, is your worth, tying your worth in your
Mhm.
identity to being a soccer. For us, it's being a soccer player. And I was always known as the cousin at Thanksgiving. Oh, she's the soccer one.
Soccer, yeah.
Yeah, how soccer. It's like the only question anyone knows how to ask. But like it feels so cool. Like I loved that. Like it didn't bother me. It didn't annoy me. Like I loved that identity and then not having that anymore. I'm like, okay, now I work in soccer. So now then people can still ask me about like, oh, how's your job that's in soccer? But I still feel this identity of like that is who people know me as is the soccer girl.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know when that started to hit you that because I know you've talked about wanting to change that identity, but I'm sure it's so hard because it is your entire life right
Possible
now.
because that's like who I am. I'll like when my sister will be like, "Oh, I was talking to so and so about you," and I'm like, "Wait, but what did you say?" I always say
Mhm.
like, "How did you introduce me?" She's like, "Oh, I say you're the soccer player." I go, "No, can you say something else?" Like I'm trying to slowly, but like I mean, if I meet people now, they're like, "Oh, like this is she's a professional soccer player in LA," and I'm kind of just like, "Well, I am." I don't know what's gonna sound cooler than that when
Mhm.
I'm done playing. Probably nothing. So I'm kind of just like soaking it in, but I'm also like, oh gosh, do people think I'm cooler than I am because of my title? I
Right.
mean, right? Like,
I'm like, yes, I do. But I'm just kidding.
yeah, on paper, you're like, damn, a pro athlete in LA, like that just
Mhm.
sounds so glamorous or whatever. I mean, I right now what I'm doing is working on like really embracing the other identities that I am, especially in off season when I'm not really like a soccer player. And it is
Mhm.
really hard for me. And I always get like super anxious and antsy around this time. But I think what has also helped me throughout my career, which I kind of talked about in the beginning, I think briefly, is just like not having my worth be tied into like my accolades anymore, but just
Mhm.
making sure I'm filling up my cup in other areas in
Yeah.
life. And I said with the courage, like my worth was tied into being a good teammate and versus like the results. And now my worth with Angel City is tied into like being a good friend, daughter, sister, whatever. And
Yeah.
so for me, soccer player is just an equal part, like another one of them versus like the main one, even though
Yeah.
it's my job. But it takes work. Like everyone struggles with this. We recorded an episode. I don't know if you've listened to it with Tina and Joe. It was the
Mhm.
four.
Yep.
I was like sitting there like, you guys, I am terrified for the day, but there are three girls who love soccer very much and they are no longer playing and they've managed to like really work towards things that fulfill them. So I know
Yeah.
they're, and I mean, let's say like there are days where I sit there and I'm like, I am excited for the day I'm no longer playing because I get to finally enjoy things that I always had to put on a back burner, like
Right.
Saturdays and Sundays, like normal person weekends. I know they're so mundane for the average human, but for me, like that's so special because I like
Mhm.
really gave them up for 24 years of my life. So for
Right.
me, I can't wait to just like go out to dinner on a Friday and not have to eat a pregame meal.
Right. Yeah.
Just little things like that, or like sleep in on a Sunday and not have to go to recovery or be on the road
Yeah.
or just like random stuff.
Yeah. So it's good that you have like things that you know that you can look forward to. It's you're thinking more of the lens of like what am I gaining in my life versus what am I losing because I'm would no longer be playing. And you even mentioning, the other girls that you were interviewing with and they all had been in your shoes and then are now retired. And I think it's so important is for you to have relationships with people who have been through it. It kind of reminds me of like a breakup. And I have only been through like one major breakup in my life, but I was so terrified of it because I'm like, I've never been through this before. I don't know if I'm going to survive it. And then
Mhm.
you do and you get through it. And yes, it's super hard, but then like you do survive it and then you do find, the positives in life still that you have, which so having people that have been through it, I think for
Uh,
me would be the most helpful
yeah,
thing.
like people being like, listen, there's light at the end of the tunnel, I promise you, will be very helpful. Because now I'm thinking of like breakup situations and like when I'm there consoling others, because I'm like,
Hmm.
listen, I've been through some hard stuff. Like, I promise you will be okay. And you just
Yeah.
can't see it right now. That's like really a good point to lean on people that are, they're like, I've walked this walk. You are going to find things in your world that, I mean, you're fulfilled, right?
Right.
Not
You're
that
like
it's,
in
not that
Saturdays.
it's always the easiest thing. I feel like obviously, especially in the job, your job is tough because you are surrounded by it all the time. I don't know if I'd be able to do that. I don't know if I'm not going to work in soccer when I'm done. For you, you're at these games and you're like, I miss that like feeling. I miss that grind. I miss that energy. Yeah.
When I tell you how hard it was to like it was such a shock for me how hard it was to like stand at courage practice. And
You're
I
like,
would
I could be out there.
I was like, they'd kick my ass, but like, I feel like I could like kind of at least keep up and be a cone out there. But I would watch and I'm like, damn, I did not enjoy it enough in the moment because I had so much pressure on myself. Like, in college, like playing Division 1 was like my ultimate goal, and I got there, but then I was like, I cannot be myself. Like I could not play like myself. Had so much performance anxiety like every single practice, and it affected me because then I didn't play for like 2 years and I rode the bench. But going back to our point of like working in the sport, I've really enjoyed it. Like it's brought me so much fulfillment in my life because I didn't go on to play professionally. I still feel like I can be a part of the sport, contribute to it, but it's really hard still being close to it. It's almost easier now that I'm in men's sports because
You're on the men's side now.
it's
It's
not the
probably
same.
help.
But being in the women's side, I'm like, damn, because it's so weird.
And
Because
you're like, we're all the same age. So you were probably
right,
sitting at those practices like, oh my God, these are my friends. Like,
I just like after training, we're like shooting the shit, and I'm like, but still, it just we felt like the same. You guys felt like my teammates in college, but it. I will say it was very, very difficult, and I don't think I was as open about this, which I'll do now. But just about it obviously looked like a dream job for any prior college soccer player. It's like, oh my God, now you're working in the NWSL. And it's like, yeah, but I didn't make the clean break, and did not allow myself to like process the loss of the sport, that loss of identity, because it's still tied to me. So there's part of me that definitely has not, gone through it all yet. But yeah, so it's interesting that you say you don't want to work in it at all, because that could probably almost be easier to help process.
yeah, I think if I just have that clean break where I'm like, that chapter is finished for me.
Mm,
What else do you have to offer this world? I don't know. I never say never, but I just feel like for me, it might be too hard, but just because I think I'm just like such an emotional person and I would just
yeah,
feel so deeply like being around it. I would just be like, damn, I can't do this.
it's hard. Because then you can't play, and you're just like, oh, you're like, you feel yourself
Oh
like
yeah.
kicking the ball on the sidelines when
Yeah,
you're
I commend you for, I don't know how you do it,
well.
but it is a sick job. So that's probably how you.
It's pretty sick. Um, I thought about this as a good way to wrap it up, and you were mentioning how your friend or your sister was like introducing you as the soccer player. How do you want to be introduced, or like what do you want to be known as off the field?
Oh, okay. I
If it's
think
Cari, not the soccer player.
well, I was talking the other day about purpose. And because I was
Mm,
reading Glennon Doyle's book about life purpose.
yeah.
And my purpose right now, I feel, well, this is tied to soccer, but was to leave soccer better than I found it in all areas, and two, to like help others in terms of like mental health and use the hardships that I've gone through to prevent that happening for other people and kind of give them tools and strategies for them to enhance their lives. So that's where I feel like my purpose lies because I really enjoy doing that. But who am I? I hope people would be like, she is I don't know, radiant ball of energy that just like I don't know. I want people to like be like, oh yeah, her energy makes me joyful and she makes me want to like be my best self. I don't know, like I don't really know who I want to be. Like, oh, she's such a goofy, outgoing girl. She's so fun to be around. She really is such a good person.
Yeah. I
That's
think
what I
that
want.
good. Say, yeah, confidence,
But
confidently.
obviously when someone's introducing me, they're gonna probably put my job title first.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I think that's
blank, the very energetic, goofy, outgoing, like blah, 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 blah.
blah, blah,
But
blah, blah.
I just want to continue being a good human being.
Well, I think you're doing a damn good job of that. All
Me
right.
too.
Drop where everyone can find you. How can they listen to your podcast and see you
Hmm.
on the Instagram?
Please support Butterfly Road. I think the handle is Butterfly Road
Butterfly
Pod.
Road.
Butterfly Road Podcast on Instagram. Obviously.
You're out
This,
here.
I
Okay.
think there's like an underscore. Let me see.
Butterfly Road Podcast, all together, no underscores.
And then
And
my
I'll look up Cari's Instagram is
underscore and my Twitter too. Not that anyone is using Twitter anymore.
yeah, Cari underscore Roccaro, 2 C's, 1 R. I always misspelled your name when I was writing press releases.
I'll be like signing, I'll go out to eat and I'm like signing the check and like sometimes I like mess it up a little bit. And I'm like, oh, it's fine. It's okay. No one notices. But yeah, when people spell it wrong, I'm like, you know what? I do too. It's okay.
It's my own name. Cool. Well, thanks for coming on.
Of course.